I'm Iris Muller. I'm a certified rehabilitation counselor and a proud mom of 2 children, one of whom has quadriplegic cerebral palsy and is nonverbal.
And I'm Alma Schneider, a licensed clinical social worker and the proud mom of 4 children, one of whom has Prader-Willi syndrome.
In this podcast, we discuss the uncensored truth about raising kids with disabilities.
Prepare to laugh, cry, and hopefully learn something new. This is Two Moms, No Fluff.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Two Moms, No Fluff. I'm Alma Schneider, and I'm here with my partner, Iris Muller, and we are very happy to have you here today. If this is your first time with Two Moms, No Fluff, we want to give an extra special welcome to you and hope that you'll get some support here. Iris, would you like to?
Hello, Alma. Alma,
Hello.
Today I wanted to talk about sleep, or maybe more specifically, sleep deprivation. This is a topic close to heart. As you know, we have struggled through 13 and a half years of having to carry the burden of a night shift and many years day shift as well without any help. And as you know, it's very hard to function without sleep. I wanted to, if it's possible today, to talk about both how we help our kids sleep, especially those who struggle with sleeping, and talk about how we help ourselves sleep, because with all the stress and the hardship, I wouldn't sugarcoat it, hardship that we have to deal with in our daily life, it's sometimes very hard to just like remember how to relax and fall asleep.
Yeah.
So, Alma, do you have any stories or something?
Oh, you know I do. And I gotta say, Iris, you seem a little tired today. You're not your energetic, wild self. What's going on?
Thank you.
Gotta check in.
Yeah, I have no excuse for it, but I do have a migraine right now, so it's very hard to kind of like rock it as usual.
Yeah,
Because
I know.
But I have to say that now that I do get help during the night, the frequency of my migraines decreased dramatically, because
That's great.
I used to like get them a lot because I wouldn't sleep night after night after night, and it was horrible. But nevertheless, it's I find it like the right day and atmosphere to talk about sleep deprivation, because I'm in that zone today, and
All right.
physically remember the agony of what it feels like.
You have to remember the agony to appreciate the most days now of no agony with sleep. So I'm glad that you're getting a little bit of a break from that. So I will start off, give you a little break so you can, take a little cat nap while I'm talking. So with our situation with Prader-Willi syndrome, and this seems to be very common, but also a lot of people I've spoken with who have kids with autism, this is an issue. Waking up incredibly early and waking up through the night. Just having that whole circadian rhythm thrown off. For Prader-Willi syndrome, a lot of people have sleep apnea, which is a real problem, and it's exacerbated by the obesity, which is prevalent in people with Prader-Willi syndrome. My son is not obese, but he does still have some sleep apnea. So some issues that have arisen over the years, they're much better now because he's more self-sufficient, but when he wakes up in the morning. But when he was younger, it probably lasted till maybe 6 or 7, he would get up so early. He would get up at like 5 in the morning, and we had to get up with him, and he would want breakfast as soon as he got up. So it was just a horrible wake-up call in the mornings. And it's really hard not to get upset and frustrated with your kid when they do that. And as we all know, it's not our kids' fault. We can't blame them, but it's natural and normal to be annoyed and frustrated, because when we are sleep deprived, it is just one of the worst states of mind. You can't think straight. You have, very little patience. Your threshold for chaos and anything that could be potentially upsetting is just, the threshold is low. So it is so vitally important for mental health, for physical health, for weight loss or just to maintain a healthy weight to get enough sleep. So I just want to put that in there, interject that, that it's very easy to get upset with our kids. So we have to really try hard, like with everything else, we have to try really hard to work with the sleep deprivation and do everything we can in our power to not be sleep deprived. So one of the things could be going to bed early, which I'm just going to jump right in and say I always hated when people said that, because the only time that we have some freedom, especially when our kids are younger, is when they go to sleep. So we take advantage of those nighttime hours, and we don't want to go to bed that early, because we want to enjoy our life in the evening or with our partner and watch TV or, do other things. And it can really, cramp our style. But it's the most important thing to get sleep. It is so important. So if you can do that, just go to sleep and try to get on a better rhythm. And then in the mornings, if you're going to wake up really, really early with your child, maybe you can shift how you used to do things. I mean, a lot of the things that we talk about in this podcast are about shifting gears, and maybe you were not a morning person before, but guess what? You're going to have to become one, because if you don't, you're not going to get any sleep and you're going to be a miserable person. So, and whatever you can do to shift gears to make yourself a morning person by just forcing yourself to go to sleep, and we'll talk about some strategies to get to sleep that apply to anyone who has sleep issues. But I'll start off with that. Also, well, I'll save the later years, for after Iris talks. But Iris, I hand the mic to you all the way across the country to Michigan.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I wanted to say that one of the, I think, injustices in being a parent to a child with special needs is the way that society maybe, expects people that have kids with disabilities to continue to function and give their kids the best care, and in addition, the best therapy services, and all of that without giving them a moment to rest for once, and the privilege of sleeping like a normal person. And so many parents are just like stuck in the cycle that they don't get the help and support that they need to just stay healthy. And as you mentioned, with the moment that the person is sleep deprived, and I know it physically because I've been there for so many years, so many of our normal function is decreased, that there were many days in my life that I felt like, they released me on the road as a drunk driver, and now I need to just drive as a mother, continue with my daily activities of taking care of two young children. And I'm not there. I'm just, the only thought that I had in mind is just sleep. Like, what can I do so I can sleep, that I cannot bear any additional hour of being awake. And I had so many days that my only kind of focus was just counting the hours until I can go back to sleep. Yeah. And then I would go back to sleep, and the moment that I would fall back asleep and I would like finally kind of get to the zone, to rest, I would be awakened again and again by my daughter, who had her needs, that she also needed to sleep, but she needed help to be comfortable and to deal with pain and spasms, etc., etc. And the place I think that I failed most as a mother was at night, because I just, there were nights that I'm embarrassed to say, but I'll say it out loud for everybody to enjoy my misery, that I would just like cry while caring for her and begging her to go back to sleep. And she would see the state that I was in, and she would start panicking and crying. Luckily, 90% of the time when I got to those low points, I had my husband around to kind of like switch shifts with me and help out, although he was also kind of like already done. And it can be like the lightest cold, her nose is stuffy, and then the whole family doesn't sleep for a week. But when my husband, for example, would be on business trips and I was on my own with the kids, it was absolutely like dangerous. And the fact that we now have help during the night, I think really saved our family from a catastrophe. Like, this could not have ended up well. And when I'm saying that, although the episode is about like sleep solutions that you can use for your child and for yourself at home, I want to reiterate to all the mothers and fathers who are listening right now, to do anything within their power to get help so they can sleep. Because this is really, as they say in India, the difference between hope and despair, but it's really the difference between like having a life or not. And it's crucial. And I, as I'm now like a few months into having a nighttime aid for my daughter, and I'm still learning how to sleep because it's a skill. I really forgot how to. I used to like have a night aid and run to the bathroom 8 times a night because I wasn't used to just like sleeping during the night. And I'm still having some challenges in this new regime that someone else is caring for my daughter. But I really want to encourage people. This is the place that we need to obviously put a lot of advocacy skills and really try to help the system acknowledge how impossible it is to leave a person on their own and then expect that they continue to live life and care for a child with a disability during the day.
Yeah, and you're making me remember that a few years ago I read an article that said that most of the car crashes that happen are from people who are sleep deprived.
Yeah. Yeah,
and lose it on the road, lose control of the car on the road because they're sleep deprived. So this is a very serious issue, and a lot of people just naturally have poor sleep, in general. So you add on to that the inability to catch up on sleep because you have all these tasks that you have to be on top of. It is a recipe for disaster. It really is. And for a medically fragile person, it is a matter of life and death sometimes to be able to be in a state where you're clear-headed and can help them.
There is a reason they use sleep deprivation as a method of torture, because it is a torture. And when it's a little bit different when a person has difficulty falling asleep on their own, etc. It's quite different when you finally, let's say, reach that deep sleep stage and you are being awakened time and time again, and it's not where your body needs it. It's just it's torturous. I have no other word to describe it. And I think that that being said, there is still a lot that we can do to help ourselves before we get like rescue from outside sources.
Yes.
Do you want to like start with some methods that you found, or should I start?
Sure. So, we always talk about safety on this podcast and how important that is. So a lot of people who have, typical children, but a lot of people who have children with disabilities have, they wander around the house. And if a child is not sleeping properly, which we might be having difficulty sleeping because we're worried that the child is going to wake up, and if the child is ambulatory, we'll be walking around and could fall down the stairs, could leave the house. So it's really important, just so you can be as calm as possible to be able to fall asleep, to always have everything secured in terms of, staircases. Like we had to put a gate, at the top of the stairs. So we didn't worry about Lincoln waking up and falling down the stairs. And our other child who used to sleepwalk, the same thing. We had to put up, a gate. We've talked about this in other episodes, but making sure that we have alarms on the doors, making sure that the kid can't leave the house, because that has happened to us in the middle of the night to go out and get food. And we didn't know where our son was at 5 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning. And so we have to put things in place in our own home. For me, because of Prader-Willi syndrome and the danger of food being available, we have to have locks on our doors. We have to make sure that everything is locked up. So having to, we don't want to have diffused responsibility for those kinds of things in the house, meaning that somebody has to be appointed to make sure that that door is locked. So that could be a point person in the house, or it could be part of your nightly ritual to make sure that, the alarm is on, the doors are locked, the gate is up, whatever it is that your child will require to remain safe throughout the night. That's really important. From a personal standpoint, and I mentioned this, I believe, in another episode, I was so tired when Lincoln was an infant because I was getting up in the middle of the night having to feed him with a tube because he had a G tube in his stomach. And I was feeding him breast milk through a tube, holding it at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I fell asleep one time, and all the breast milk, I only woke up because the breast milk had fallen on me. So that was a real indication that even while feeding my child, I passed out. I wasted that precious breast milk that I had pumped. And I later found out from my friend that I could get an automated digital machine to feed him at certain times during the night. That changed my life, just like you, Iris, talking about being able to finally get help throughout the night. I this having this machine that nobody told me about, that I found out from a friend, no medical provider had told me about it. I didn't find out till he was 4 months old. So I had 4 months of waking up, and not like nursing where you just get up and you can be half asleep as you're nursing your baby. I had to be, completely awake to be able to do this. It was torturous, and I got once I got that machine after 4 months, it was absolutely life changing. So it's important to find out if there are devices, to help you be able to stay asleep. Getting a CPAP for yourself if you have sleep apnea. For the child, if the child has sleep apnea that's waking them up in the middle of the night, that they have that extra oxygen. So those are some things that we've had to deal with. In terms of us getting to sleep, I'm going to, talk about all the normal things that people talk about who struggle with sleeping. So it's really important, as much as, we want to catch up on our social media or, TV shows, or just responding to emails at night. It's really important that we do not get on a device right before bed. And I forget if it's a half an hour or an hour or 45 minutes before you go to bed, but it's really important that once you go to sleep, you are in your bed to go to sleep, or wherever it is that you sleep, and that you separate the tasks that you need to do from your bedroom. So they say, don't go to sleep in your living room, with the TV on. You want to have a separate space where you just sleep. So don't do activities in your bed that will require a blue light from a computer or a phone. It's okay to read, and reading is a great way to get tired. They do have apps that are meditation apps that you can listen to, and that's something that I find really useful when I'm a little, wired before bed and I really know that I need to get to sleep. I will listen to, they have meditation podcasts that are free on YouTube. You can also pay for some of them if you like them more. There are some good ones out there. You can, look around and test out different ones, but they go through every part of your body to do a meditation to relax every part of your body, and they really are effective for a lot of people. Drinking is not a great idea because that can really help you fall asleep, drinking alcohol, but it can also disrupt your sleep, as many of us know. So you might wake up in the middle of the night, and that's not helpful. I will say, now that it's legal, gummies and smoking pot. I'm not a fan of smoking pot because I don't think it's good for your lungs, but if you can take gummies or a vape pen,
you need to explain what gummies
okay,
are, because
a
people
gummy
like me.
is okay. A
Like, what is
gummy
a gummy?
is an edible. I'm sorry, an edible marijuana or edible CBD that has a little bit of THC in it can be very effective in helping people fall asleep. And these are, there's a certain amount of THC that's legal everywhere that that people are allowed to take in food items and in edibles, but they can be extremely helpful in falling asleep, and a lot of people are taking advantage of those now. There are medications, Lexapro, and Celexa and Prozac. These are all medications that can reduce anxiety and that rumination that we sometimes have, thinking about all the problems and what we have to do tomorrow, and it really can keep us up, especially if you have a complicated life or a really extreme situation at home. No matter what the situation, it's very possible that you're going to ruminate. Something else that I find very helpful for me is having a little book next to my bed. So when I think of something like, oh my God, I'm scared, I'm not going to remember that I have to do this in the morning, I keep a little book next to my bed and I write down whatever it is that comes to mind, even if it's like a cool song lyric that I just made up with, um, or a topic for our episode. I write it down in this little book because then I know it's there and I'm not going to forget it. If I don't write it down, it's going to stress me out and I'm not going to be able to fall asleep worrying that I'm not going to remember the next day. So that's the, another strategy. Um, Monitors, and a lot of these things are what we do when we have a new baby, a typically developing baby, having a monitor. So if we're concerned about our child, we can literally just look at the monitor or have it audibly, on, so that if there's a problem, we're going to know. um, Reading, as I mentioned, doing exercise, not right before you go to bed, but a few hours before bed is very helpful to help you calm down and to be able to rest more. Yoga obviously is a very helpful strategy technique to calm our bodies down, and it's really more, the yoga I think means breathing. So learning how to breathe slowly and to breathe properly can be really useful in calming our whole system down before we go to bed. So that's something else that we can do. Um, let's see. I think I've covered most of them that I wanted to cover. I might think of some more as you're talking, Iris, but those are some strategies that I use that sometimes work and people that I know use.
Yeah, these are like great strategies. I kind of think that maybe I should talk a little bit about how to create the time or the space that you can actually go to sleep for people that don't have that don't have a problem falling asleep. They just need the where
They
and
need
when.
to sleep.
Yes, yes. So because all of your suggestions are great, and you were talking about a few things that I wanted to recommend anyway, but what do you do if you don't have when to sleep? So what I wanted to suggest is that, first of all, the first area in your life that you probably need help with is the sleep. Find someone who can help you have the time to sleep and take care of your child in a way that is not disturbing you, that you can complete 1 or 2 full sleep cycles without interruption. And I don't know if it's a relative, a friend, a paid professional, an aide, whatever you can do, but you need to find out the time that you can sleep without interruption. And that being said, it is nice to be able to sleep during the night, but if you cannot sleep during the night, find an alternative solution and guard it with your life. So
Yes.
what I mean is, for example, we had in the earlier years, we were able to pay for an aide to come and be with our children in the morning. Both our kids obviously didn't go to any school or childcare center because we did unschooling, but still I needed to sleep. So between 6 o'clock in the morning and noon, I would be asleep. The door would be closed, and most of the time I would not be interrupted, and my husband would be at work and the babysitter would be with the children. And that being said, sometimes I would be tempted, I would call the neurologist and they would say, yeah, you can be here next month at Monday, 9 o'clock. And that's like the middle of the night for me. And because I was a young mother, it's like my daughter's care is more important than my sleep. No, it's not. The most important thing is the sleep. You need to sleep to function. So I'm encouraging all the parents out there, if you do decide on an alternative time that you're asleep in, this is a holy time. You do not touch it. There isn't anything more important than that, because this is, again, the difference between life and death. And I'm not being sarcastic, or this is really important. So all doctor appointments and other activities can all wait, and do not interrupt your own sleep. Everything else can wait. So that's one thing. The other thing is that there's lots of solutions to kind of create a child's safety in a separate room. You can have, as you said, a room monitor. There are bed tents that you can kind of close and know that your child is safe. But I'll give you a simple example with Karen, my daughter. She has an overactive ATNR, the asymmetric tonic neck reflex, which means that when her head is turning one way, one hand goes straight and the other hand goes here, okay? But the hand that goes up here in the archer reflex, ATNR is also referred to as an archer reflex, the hand that is straight would stay open, and the hand that is up here.
When you're saying up here, just for people who are listening,
yes,
behind your head.
Behind your head would grasp. And she would grasp her own hair and start pulling. Now she'll be in pain, right? And
yes.
and she can't do anything to release it but turning her head. And then she would like rip off like a huge chunk of hair of her own head. So our daughter could not be left in a separate room, in a separate bed. And the solution for us, and this is what we did for like almost 13 years, is that she would sleep in our own bed. And this sounds to some people as an outrageous solution and not acceptable, etc. For us, it gave us the liberty to sleep a little bit more calmly, knowing that she's next to us and we can wake up from the slightest sign of discomfort. And I want to encourage people to forget about like societal limitations and to forget about what is considered to be normal in other homes and other families. You need to focus on your own child and your own mental state. What would make you feel more comfortable so you can sleep? And I have to say that in our situation, because of sometimes if we did not approach like a situation and when it was kind of just warming up, because we didn't hear that she was uncomfortable, we would wake up already to a screaming child that is in pain, and to realize in a nonverbal child where is the pain exactly and what we need to do. That would turn into a half an hour fiasco in the middle of the night. And it was easier to like have her right next between the two of us, between my husband and myself, so we could hear what's going on. Yeah. Then there's another thing that a lot of people told us so many times, my husband and myself, that we need to find quality time so our relationship can flourish. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? We're in the middle of World War III, whatever. It's kind of ironic to say these days, but at the end of the day, it's not this is having quality time with your husband is a good thing, but it's more important that the two of you continue to be two functioning adults. You would still love each other, but it's more probable that you'll be more tolerant to each other and be in a better mood when you just feed the kids or sit together for dinner, and without having that quality time in the evening after the kids went to sleep, because you do also need to sleep. And there are a few years, and we spoke a little bit, Alma, about welcome to Holland, and about how the journey looks like for parents of children with special needs. And the reason that I don't like that analogy is that it doesn't always feel like, okay, we didn't land in Paris, we landed in Holland, and the views are also beautiful here and there is good food. You sometimes, the first few years with your child, you are in the middle of a war zone. You don't know who's for you, who's against you, when is the next attack going to happen. And it's really, really scary. And I'll say that also, that I used to serve in the military because it is mandatory in Israel. And you were talking about spilling the milk on yourself. And it reminded me that during our military service, we would have like drills and days that we wouldn't sleep for so many hours that people literally fell asleep standing, like poof, you would see someone falling asleep like that. But still, this wasn't as horrible as my experiences in parenting, because there is a difference when after, let's say, 36 hours without sleep, you get to sleep for 6 or 7 hours uninterrupted, then having not slept well, and for 4 days in a row, every time you fall asleep, someone wakes you up again and again at the worst time, and you're just out of your mind. It's hard. So sleep whenever you can sleep, and don't mind anything else. Find all the help and resources that you can put into anything else put them into finding time to sleep, and let everybody else in your life know that you live in a different time zone, maybe
Mm-hmm.
in relativity to others, and protect the sleep, because without it you cannot exist.
Yes, and you reminded me, turn your phone off.
Oh yeah.
When you go to sleep, put on do not disturb, because you might get that time to fall asleep. You might actually fall asleep, and then your phone wakes you up. And then, so that's something very simple that can be done. Yeah, it is. Sleep is a tough one. I mean, it's a tough one, and it can, we'll get to our episode about sex at some point, but sex is typically, if a couple is together, they're gonna have sex at night when the kids go to bed. And I know from many people that this can become a very big issue, especially if one of the people in the relationship is the main caretaker. The exhaustion is so severe, can be so severe, that there is no room for that in that person's mind. All they want to do is sleep. And I heard in a book once, sleep, when you have a child or a new baby or a child with a disability, sleep is your lover. Like, that is your lover. So that can cause a lot of marital issues as well, as many of us know. And if one person is absolutely not on the same page, so there needs to be a time to find time for that, maybe during the day, or to you know, get someone to care for the kids so you can have your private time elsewhere, out of the house if you can afford to get out of the house, with money
Sounds
or
like a
with just
familiar
your
trick,
time.
Alma.
What'd you say?
Sounds like a familiar trick, Alma. I
It
wonder.
sounds like a familiar trick, and but it's a very important one to think about because it causes a lot of marital tension and or just relationship tension if one partner wants to just sleep, which is totally understandable, but it might be seen as an abandonment of the partner, or talk about decreasing your libido, being exhausted. I mean, that is huge. That's huge. So all of these things need to be looked at, because the number one goal is to be able to sleep so that we can function. It's like eating food. We need to eat, we need to sleep, and we need to breathe. And if we cannot sleep, forget it. We're gonna be useless or close to it.
Yeah, I
So
wanted to say something about the
yeah.
sex portion of it. I'm just like, if there
Oh,
is one kind of side of the couple that has enough energy to have sex, they
they need
should
to do more
allow,
work.
yeah, they should allow the other partner a good night's sleep, and then maybe the other partner would be on the same page and be interested in sex too. But otherwise,
Hmm.
I'm just like, there is some inequality, because usually we on the difficult weeks we both didn't want to have sex. It was just like we wanted to sleep. I can guarantee that. But maybe there's a bit of an equilibrium that is not maintained if one partner is like up for activity when the other one is like, I'm dying here. And I wanted
Yes.
to say something. We talk about food and sleep and all that. You can survive without food for a few days, many less days without water. How would it sound like if someone would give birth to a child with a disability, and the government will say, from now on, you'll need to continue to take care of your child without being allowed to drink? This is the only analogy that I can think about, because you
Hmm.
cannot survive more than 3 days without water, and you cannot survive with more than 3 days without any sleep. So this is what is happening to so many families, and
Yeah.
I invite people that are suffering from a severe lack of sleep to just write on our group or write us in an email, because I really want to harness the power of numbers to do something, to like really do some activism around the sleep, because this is an issue that is close to my heart. I feel that our life was in a way saved because we finally got the help that we were fighting for more than 6 years now in a row. And the
And that's
fact
through
that,
the state she's talking about, getting
yeah,
the state to pay for help for families that are in this kind of a crisis, which, and it is a crisis.
Yes, and I keep on getting calls from other parents in similar situation. I'm just wondering what can be done on a not a national level, but a multinational level to just raise awareness to this, because you cannot accept people to exist without drinking, and the same goes to sleep.
Yep, it is
Yeah.
true. That's all I've got. I mean, well, I'm sure we'll be talking about this issue in other episodes, but the main goal I think that we want to convey is that you need to do whatever you can to be able to sleep, and that it's not indulgent to take a nap, because a lot of parents are made to feel like it's an indulgence. But we require sleep, and some people require a lot fewer hours of sleep. We all vary a little bit in that, but we all need a minimum of sleep. So whatever it takes, that really does need to be a top priority.
And I want to just add one more thing before we really close, and that is that there are probably parents here that are listening, and they're like, okay, our child actually sleeps well through the night, but still I feel so exhausted and I have to take a nap myself in the middle of the day, and they feel bad about that. Listen, people, our lives are very, very stressful. Very stressful. We deal with both daily challenges that other parents don't deal with. We deal with a lot of challenges that are related to the disability, that there is insurance companies to deal with, doctor's appointments and other things that by itself can make a person exhausted. And if you can have another nap during the day, and if you do need to sleep more than the recommended 8.5 hours and you need to sleep 10.5 hours, allow yourself to sleep. We have so little, I guess, pleasures in our lives as they are with our children. So if you can sleep, sleep. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. And make sure that you have cozy beds with the best sheets you can get for the money. I buy a lot of sheets at thrift shops, really good quality sheets, and they don't need to cost a lot of money, and it makes a big difference. So make your bed the most wonderful refuge that you can.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's it. That's it for today. And we hope you've learned something. Please share with us in the comments if you'd like to add anything that we've forgotten or don't know about. And we'll see you next week. Thank you, Iris.
Thank you, Mama. Bye.
Take care.
For more information, please go to www.twomomsnofluff.com. Thank you.
If you like this podcast, please subscribe and give it a 5-star rating so more people can hear it. Thank you.